Welcome back to McFall Farms, where we believe strongly in faith, family, and farm life. I'm Bo McFall. We're glad you're here. If you've been following us for some time, thank you for following and subscribing. If you're new to the channel, we'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We did a video here a little while back on our metal building conversion into a home and had all kinds of views, a lot of comments and questions that I didn't cover in the initial video that today I'm going to try to cover. So to give you a little backstory, we actually, prior to our YouTube channel, began paying out of pocket to build debt-free homestead. And so that being said, we relocated an existing 30 by 60 metal building that I owned currently and built it out here. I'll leave a link to that video below in the description. And I'm going to give you some background. Had lots of questions. People ask me what the cost of where we're at right now has cost. So that being said, we're going to cover that today. The cost of doing this build for this 30 by 60, 1,800 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homestead. So let's get to it. So essentially, had to make myself a few notes. The initial move of the building, we originally purchased this building years prior. Now in today's market, a 30 by 60 metal building, that cost varies. So there's a lot of different options and variations of the buildings, whether you do a red iron steel building, whether you do a tubular frame building like we've done here. Eave height plays a part in it. Standard eave height, I believe, is 10 foot. We went with a 12-foot eave, which gives us a higher peak. And then also too, just depending on the original building, I had openings for garage doors, things of that nature. We closed those ends off, had to reframe one end to meet everything to code. So the initial building cost was between $25,000 and $35,000. They're all over the place depending on the market, the style of building. So that's just what we have found, and that's kind of the ballpark we fell into. Again, I bought this building some years back. Now, before you do anything, I would highly encourage you to go down to your building and zoning department, have a conversation, set an appointment, let them know what your intentions are, and let them help you and walk you through it. I will tell you, as an owner builder, which is what we've chose to do, I've been calling in the help of friends and family and favors and things of that nature, friends that are in trades that can help me make sure everything is to code for our inspections. So that being said, first thing I would do, consult your building and zoning department, wind loads, things of that nature, that even to make sure you can do what you're asking to do. We've done everything legally and by the book. That being said, that was our first step. The second thing I've been asked a lot of questions about was permitting and plans. What I did in the county that I live in Northeast Florida, was to take the set of metal building plans from the building manufacturer, that engineer set of plans, and I also took a home layout, the layout that I had chose of where the rooms would be, how the rooms would be laid out, the spacing, and things of that nature. And I did that by just a simple Google search. For me, it was a 30 by 60, 1,800 square foot building. I researched 30 by 60 house plans, 30 by 60 house layouts, 30 by 60 designs for homes. And then I took the designs that I liked, my wife and I liked, and sat down and looked over. And then I basically took those and cut and pasted, literally printed out on a piece of paper, cut them out how I wanted, repaste them, and kind of etched in the lines where they needed to be, made some changes, and I submitted that layout with my engineered building plans, as well as the details that I also found online by Google searches, typical wall details, typical ceiling truss details, typical drywall details, things of that nature that was required here in our county that you had to provide. It did take me 3 attempts in order to get my permitting, and so that initial step to get all my permitting done with our impact fees and things of that nature was about $11,000. Again, we've done this over the course of, we are now in about 5 5 years because we've done this as we could afford to out of pocket. So instead of vacation and doing all those fun things we really love to do, we've saved and saved and saved and used those funds to build our retirement debt-free home is the plan. So the initial building cost $25,000 to $35,000. The permitting and impact fees, $11,000. The next step was our foundation. So we had to dig and excavate, bring in dirt, dig our footers, the rebar, the reinforcing concrete, the vapor barriers, form boards, the labor for that to be done, which also was done relatively inexpensive. I had some help on that in comparison. I have a friend who's in the concrete business, actually a neighbor not far from here, whose crew helped me with that project. So that total, I also had the roughed in plumbing prior to pouring the foundation, and that rough in plumbing with the foundation cost and materials and labor was about $12,000. From there, the next big step was we started framing, but also in the meantime worked on getting temporary power. I set the meter can and the outside panel box myself, and then I also got with our power provider, and they assisted me in submitting all the applications for that. I in turn did the labor, dug the trench for the transformer, and then dug the trench from the transformer to the house, and I laid all the conduit to the proper depth, and then our power provider, which happened to be FPL, Florida Power Lights, came out, did the inspection, approved everything, and then they ran the cable to the temp power box. So that was a big undertaking and a huge step forward, and that total process, the initial power was about $2,000 on our part, and FPL has a formula where that they figure, or most power companies have a formula that they figure they'll recoup their funds in X number of years. After that, I began my interior framing. The interior framing, as you can see in the background behind me on both sides, we had drawn that up, and that is to code as well. We had to submit wall details with our initial package, and we took that interior framing, and I did the majority of that myself. I have a little bit of construction background. I grew up around some construction. I actually sell construction supplies, so I do have a little bit of an edge. I'm in the market and I see this stuff on a daily basis. So I did have an idea, asked some friends, watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to do certain things and how to lay it out in the codes, and you can Google search and study the codes in your area. And then I did the majority of this framing myself. I did have some help on my vaulted ceilings and on a large beam that you can see behind me here that runs down 28 foot down the length of the building to vault my ceiling here. I had some help setting that with some actual framers that I hired on a weekend project. And so to do all the framing and get it complete, materials and labor, I was roughly $10,000, give or take. I don't have exact figures, but that was something that was another huge accomplishment that we got done. And then as another phase we did was I installed all my windows and my doors. I shopped windows very hard. I opted to install all those myself. So I did all the window framing, I did all the window installation myself to cut cost everywhere I could. And my doors come from a local salvage supply that has demo doors and things of that nature that they take down. So I was able to piece together, basically. I bought my side lights independently that were off of some damaged doors that they happened to match. I also bought my main door, which was an extremely expensive door when it was on the market, but I got a phenomenal deal. I think my entire front door assembly cost me about $350, and it's probably a $2,000 plus in set of doors. My rear back door was I think $200 with the blinds in it. Also at the discount store, basically. So I shopped the discount store, I shopped the marketplace, Craigslist, anywhere I could find materials that I could get a deal on, I did that. Windows I actually did buy at Home Depot. Shopped those pretty hard as well. Ended up having to drive to Georgia to get bronze windows because they didn't have the colors I wanted here. They only had aluminum and white in Florida that are close by to me in Florida, so I made the trip to Georgia to get the right color windows. Window door installation, that included all my window wrap tape, my sealants, my screws, the things to install those as well, and we had a total of about $2,500 in that. Our next big phase after that was our rough-in electric. We have done all the rough in electric. That it includes all the can lighting, the boxes, the exterior boxes, the air conditioning disconnects, the panel box, all the wiring, the stove wiring, the heavier gauge wire, the lighter gauge wire. And I had a friend of mine that I go to church with who come out and helped, that did most of the work that he did for me on the side, and he actually has done electrical work for over 20 years. So I was able to use that, which was a great advantage for me. So I supplied materials and supplied my labor to help where I could. And so overall in our rough electrical, we have approximately between $4,000 to $5,000 in materials and labor cost. Again, this is just the rough side. We still have to do the finished electric. And I also have coming shortly in the very, very near future, next few weeks, I have our rough HVAC, which is going to include running all the duct work and boxes and getting everything prepared to set the air conditioning unit. The rough HVAC is going to run roughly $2,500. And then from there, I've got one other thing coming. We've got to finish our rough plumbing as far as only rough finish plumbing, and we'll get that complete, and then I'll be very close to the next inspection. That being said, this is where we've gotten, where we started at to where we are now. It's been a huge endeavor, but we still feel overall we're going to come out very, very far ahead. So you'll get to see throughout this video, you'll see some stages, and I'll show you a quick overview right now of the finished products of where we are right now. And then I'll give you the grand total of what it's cost us out of pocket over the last 5 years to get where we are today. You could go take out a loan. Maybe you've got plenty of money. For me and my family, it was a matter of let's save and let's do this out of pocket and be realistic about it, and let it make a difference that we can have our home paid for and our homestead paid for, and focus on the farming and living out our days here as our, more or less, this is where I intend to retire and spend the rest of my days. We hope that this video has added some clarity to our very first video on this home construction build, converting this metal building into a home. And I will leave a card up above here to our very first video, and we encourage you to continue to follow us on this journey. Take a moment to subscribe, hit the like button, ring the notification bell, and don't miss a thing going forward. Thank you again for watching McFall Farms. Until next time.